2 small puncture marks. That's all the killer left behind. No snake in the room. No fangs, no scales. No rope-thick body slithering across the marble. Just a dead queen on a golden couch. 2 dead servants beside her, and a Roman guard pounding on a locked door too late. The most famous suicide in history almost certainly was not a snakebite. And the deeper you look, the more it stops looking like suicide at all. Somebody wanted this woman dead, and somebody else wanted her alive even more. By the end of this, you'll see why the official cause of death may be the most successful cover story the ancient world ever told, and exactly who walked away richer for it. This isn't a tragedy, it's a crime scene. Start where any investigator starts, with the body. She is found laid out on a golden couch, dressed in full royal regalia, the crown of Egypt on her head. 2 of her loyal women are dying beside her, one still adjusting that crown as Roman soldiers break down the door. The chamber was sealed from the inside. Guards had been watching it for days, because the man who now controlled her fate could not afford to lose her. The soldiers burst in. Too late, the queen is gone. Now look at the body. The historians who wrote this down were working decades later from second-hand reports, and even they admit something strange. No clear marks of violence. The most they could find were 2 faint punctures on her arm. Maybe her arm. One ancient writer states flatly that the truth was, nobody actually knew how she died. The most documented death in the ancient world, and the people closest to it couldn't agree on what they were looking at. So where did the snake come from? Here's the problem with the cobra. No snake was ever found. Not in the chamber, not in the palace, not slithering across the marble. The story says it was smuggled in under a basket of figs, which means the guards searched a basket of fruit and somehow missed a venomous serpent the length of a grown man. Because that's the second problem. An Egyptian cobra is not a subtle animal. A cobra big enough to reliably kill a healthy adult runs 4, 5, 6 feet long. You do not tuck that into a lunch basket. You do not keep it calm and coiled while servants carry it through a guarded door. And here is the detail that should end the snake theory entirely. Cobra venom does not give you a beautiful death. The poets describe Cleopatra slipping away serenely, regal to the last breath. Death by cobra is convulsions, drooping eyelids, vomiting, paralysis crawling through the body, the slow suffocation of muscles that can no longer pull in air. It is agony, and it is slow. It can take hours. One snake could not reliably kill 3 women in a single afternoon. And yet 3 women died, fast, and clean enough that hardened Roman soldiers found almost nothing on the bodies. So the snake doesn't fit, which leaves a harder question than how she died. Someone put that serpent into the story. The murder weapon nobody saw, the animal that left no body, the death too peaceful for the poison it's blamed on. That's not a clue, that's a decision. The question stops being what killed her and becomes who needed us to believe in a snake. Hold that thought, because the answer is standing in the next room. If not the asp, then what? Follow the evidence and it gets sharper, not vaguer. Cleopatra was not some pampered ornament who fainted at the sight of blood. She was a working monarch with a serious, documented obsession: poisons. This is the part the seductress legend buries. She studied toxicology. Ancient sources describe her testing poisons and venoms on condemned prisoners, watching, taking notes, learning which substances killed quickly and which killed slow and ugly. She was, in the most literal sense, an expert in dying. A woman like that does not gamble her final exit on an unpredictable snake hidden in fruit. A woman like that reaches for a precise dose she has already tested, a fast-acting compound. Modern toxicologists who've examined the case lean exactly this way: a mix of hemlock, opium, and aconite that shuts. Others point to a hollow pin or a poison comb hidden in her hair. A tiny prick, 2 small marks, Done. 2 small puncture marks, not fangs, a pin. That single object explains everything the snake can't. The speed, the calm, the clean bodies, the 2 faint marks with no serpent attached. She didn't die the way the legend says. She engineered a far better death than the legend could imagine. Because this is the woman the snake was meant to make us forget. Forget the seductress. That portrait was painted by her enemies, and it stuck. Because a dangerous woman is easier to dismiss as merely a pretty one. The real Cleopatra spoke as many as 9 languages. She was the first ruler of her Greek dynasty in 3 centuries to actually learn Egyptian. She wrote on weights, currency, and medicine. She ran the richest kingdom in the Mediterranean and balanced its books while Rome tore itself apart. She didn't seduce her way to power. She outthought everyone in the room. She backed Julius Caesar, then Mark Antony, not out of passion, but cold arithmetic. Egypt needed Rome's army. Rome needed Egypt's grain and gold. 2 superpowers, 1 bargain. That is the woman who ends up dead on the couch, not a love-struck girl, a head of state who had outmaneuvered the most powerful men alive, until she ran into one she couldn't. His name was Octavian. Soon the world would call him Augustus, Rome's first emperor. Right now he is a cold, careful young man who has won a war and wants one final prize. He does not want Cleopatra dead. He wants her alive. Sit with that, because it's the hinge of the whole mystery. Octavian was planning the greatest victory parade Rome had ever seen, a triumph. And the centerpiece, the trophy he would drag through the streets in golden chains while the mob screamed, was the Queen of Egypt herself, the last pharaoh, Caesar's lover, the woman who had nearly toppled the Republic. A dead queen is worth nothing in a parade. A living one, humiliated in chains, is worth an empire's worth of propaganda. So Octavian put her under guard in her own palace. He did everything to keep her breathing, because the historians who were there tell us he was terrified she would kill herself before he could show her off. The one man with absolute power over her life had staked his greatest political moment on keeping her alive. And within days, she was dead, right under the noses of his guards. That should have been a catastrophe for him. The most valuable prisoner in the Roman world, lost on his watch, days before the parade of his life. Instead, somehow, it worked out perfectly. The one outcome Octavian swore he feared turned out to be the most convenient thing that could possibly have happened to him. Ask yourself why, and the grieving victor starts to look a lot like the first name on a suspect list. Think about what Octavian actually faced if Cleopatra reached Rome alive. She was the most persuasive person of her age. She had talked her way into the trust of Julius Caesar, then done it again with Mark Antony. As a strategist, not a helpless beauty. Put a woman like that in front of a Roman crowd in chains and she might not break. Romans had a weakness for tragic dignity. She might win their pity. She might turn the mob, become a martyr, a symbol, a problem that outlived the parade. And she had a son. Caesarion, the biological child of Julius Caesar, a living rival claim to the very legacy Octavian had built his entire power upon. A living Cleopatra was a permanent liability. A dead one was a closed book. Now weigh the official story of his innocence. We're told Octavian was furious she died, that he even sent a grieving victor robbed of his prize. But read that exact scene again. A man who quietly allowed her death, then performed his outrage for historians who were writing under his rule, with his approval. And notice what the snake charmer detail does. It insists there was a snake. It builds the legend even as it pretends to fight it. We can't convict him. The evidence is 2,000 years cold. But lay it out the way you would in any other investigation. The guards were his. The access was controlled by him. The poison reached the one prisoner he claimed to be guarding most carefully. Her death erased his single biggest political liability. And the story that spread afterward, the brave queen, the gentle serpent, flattered him more than the truth ever could. So which is it? Either his security was a joke, and the most important captive in the Roman world smuggled lethal poison past his men, an insult to a leader that meticulous. Or he opened a door and looked the other way, because a dead Cleopatra served him better than a living one ever could. The man who supposedly lost everything when she died is the same man who gained everything from it. In any other case, that makes him your prime suspect, not your grieving witness. So why the cobra? Why did that version conquer history? Because it served everyone. In Egypt, the cobra was sacred. The uraeus, the rearing serpent on the pharaoh's crown, the symbol of divine royalty. For Cleopatra to die by the cobra was for a goddess queen to be embraced by the emblem of her own divinity. It made her death romantic instead of clinical, exotic and safely foreign, not a political murder Rome had to answer for. It flattered her. It flattered Octavian even more. And for the poets who came after, a snake was simply a better story than a pin in a vial. In winning, the legend buried the woman. It turned a multilingual stateswoman, a patron of scholars, a ruler who nearly redrew the map of the ancient world, into a love-struck seductress clutching a serpent to her breast. The myth didn't just get her death wrong, it got her wrong. The real Cleopatra didn't die the way the poem says. She died the way she lived, calculating, in control, choosing the exact terms of her own ending rather than letting Rome choose them for her. Whatever passed through that sealed room, a tested poison, a hidden pin, or a door left conveniently unwatched, she denied Octavian his parade. That was her last move on the board, and she won it. 2 small puncture marks, no snake. A queen who knew 100 ways to die quietly, dead in the custody of the one man who needed her alive. The serene suicide we were handed is the single version that conveniently absolves everyone standing in that room. That's how Cleopatra really died. Next time on Empire Archives, we open another sealed tomb and ask who really lies inside the missing grave of Alexander the Great, a body that vanished from history and has never been found. Subscribe to Empire Archives, and we'll keep opening the doors the powerful would rather leave shut.